Hey guys, welcome back to thinkasset.ca. I've got Eva and Laura from Family Mediation Group, and we're talking about the financial impacts on couples going through a divorce or separation. So let's talk about matrimonial homes. It's a huge thing because that's often a major sticking point.
Yeah.
They've got a home.
Yeah.
What happens to it? So tell me about it. What's a big deal there?
Well, if you go to court, it's fairly simple. If two people are fighting, then a judge will just push the house to be for sale and you split the proceeds in some proportion, right?
Okay.
That's really the end of the conversation. In mediation, you can be a lot more creative and we can meet the unique needs of the family, right? So someone can buy out the other party. We also have people who remain in the home for a little bit longer and decide to sell at a different time. We also have parents who maybe one will rent from the other and stay in the home because it's beneficial for the children to stay in the same area, go to the same school, so on and so forth. So you really can be really creative with a matrimonial home.
And that's very important because lots of times you don't have that ability when you go to court. And in here, we see lots of, the needs are very different. So one parent may indeed need to stay in the house. The other parent may want to buy the other person out. And, agreeing on that number, it's very hard because no judge has really a jurisdiction to, order a number. And so that's why you end up being, the only order is going to be sell the house, split the proceeds. But for example, when you agree on a buyout number, right? You can bring all your sort of fairness or ethical, moral sort of elements that have created your relationship, your partnership, your marriage in place. So if the house is valued, let's say at, 800,000, and 400 is one person, the other one is 400, they can agree on a buyout of 300 or a little less in exchange of, just acknowledging that, yes, maybe
one contributed to the property more than the other.
Exactly. I did all the rentals and I paid for it during it. So they can have that discussion. And then financially, it can be reflected financially. Do you know what I mean? So they can create those numbers. They have the freedom and they have the means to do it. This way, that one partner stays in the house and can afford now to have the house because he or she bought it at a little bit of a lower price. I'm not saying it has to be lower all the time. It can be higher, to be honest, sometimes. An acknowledgement, it's like, okay, you need the house. So mom or dad has been at home and needs to remain in the home, doesn't really have much other, means to buy a new house or another property. So the other person, offers a buyout that's a bit higher than the market value, right? So that's something that there's no way you can do anywhere else.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean? You can't. So how huge is that?
It's huge for people, and especially for parents. The reality is your child's life is going to be somewhat connected to their home, right? So they have school, they have friends, they have extracurriculars. So the topic of the home and where someone is going to live becomes incredibly important when we're at the mediation table. And people don't realize that we can get so creative. We can be unique to their needs. I think that's the most important, is having those conversations, especially because going through divorce is hard enough, right? Then to consider, for some people, to consider moving is already overwhelming in and of itself. Like we get a ton of people to the table who say, I don't want to talk about this. This is too much. I can't think about selling my home. And we say, no, there are other options. You can stay in it. Let's talk to a mortgage broker. Let's talk to a financial advisor. Let's get a team in.
And that's when spousal support comes in, for example, as well, right? Because let's say someone needs to stay in the home or wants to stay in the home. This is, spousal support now can be that lump sum. So you can look at all the financial elements and start, creating this big puzzle and start moving the pieces to meet that family's needs. So now if that person needs to stay in the house, or that person needs to move out, they may need a lump sum for a down payment of the house. So that's when we need people like we need mortgage. Absolutely, we need them to come in and say, okay, well, you need a lump sum. This is what the amount.
What's interesting is that with the mortgage background that I have, that the government has put in place that if someone's going through a divorce, you could actually refinance up to 95%.
Wow.
That's only available if you're going through a divorce. If you're staying together, you don't have that benefit.
Well,
right? You can only go up to 80%. So
Right.
that in itself is something that they recognize, that there's such a high level of separation and divorce, and there's going to be a need to help people out. So, you know, that there are so many different ways of being able to help out clients going through this. And it's good to hear that you guys are doing it the humane way. And it's not just like you had referred to before, it's not just a black and white object that we're just dividing down the middle and there's no rhyme or reason, right? You actually can get creative about this stuff, which is good.
Yeah.
So outside of matrimonial home, I'm assuming this, you could almost apply similar concepts to your RSPs, your
Absolutely.
investments.
Absolutely.
You know, like you could have two spouses and one of them has a lot of RSPs and the other one doesn't because of whatever their circumstances.
Right.
You could start getting creative at how to split that sort of stuff up.
And that's the great thing about mediation. If you go to court, they kind of look at every topic separately, right? They'll talk about the home, then they'll talk about pensions, then they'll talk about custody, and it'll be 3 separate issues, maybe on 3 separate different months, right? Whereas at mediation, we can talk about them all together and use them as puzzle pieces to feed off each other. So if someone wants to stay in their own home, but they also don't have any pensions or they need spousal support, we can talk about the conversations together.
Okay.
So that we can all kind of bleed together. And that's why having kind of a multidisciplinary approach is the most helpful, because then we can bring in other people who specialize, right? And can help us with that conversation. So we have that all the time where we have people feeding off their needs for splitting up their RRSPs and their investments with a spousal support obligation. Right.
Or pensions. So
right.
it's everything that you can think of property that, you know, the RSPs are included, the savings, investments, all of those stuff. And the law is pretty clear. You're legally married, it's half.
Yeah.
However, you know, the humane way or the reality is that there's more than just the law that comes into play, right? And it has come into play during your partnership and your marriage or relationship. So that's when you start getting, you know, like acknowledgement, having a discussion about it. I actually have a case right now that, we have one right now with a pension that he has accumulated this very large pension. And, but he also came in with a lot of money in the marriage. And there is an acknowledgement right now from the wife that, okay, so I'm not going to touch your pension because you also came in with a lot of money for the down payment of whatever home. So, you know, even though the law says half, she's saying, keep your pension. Thank you for putting the down payment to the house. So that, again, you cannot get that type of
in the
division.
Law, like, with
the law will say, no.
They won't even have those conversations. And I was actually thinking of a similar case where we have had families say, you know, I'm 54, I'm 55. To split my pension now would be, it feels detrimental, right? Like, where am I going to start over? How am I going to get this money back, right? And that's how we can be creative and say, okay, instead of maybe doing a rollover now or splitting something now and taking on tax consequences that we don't
all
need,
the time,
we can be a little bit more creative with maybe the proceeds of the home, right? Yeah. Or a spousal support obligation, setting it off.
Okay.
Right? Because I always feel for those people who are close to retirement and going through a divorce, because it's a lot of times it's not something we've planned for financially, right? We've planned a financial future, but we didn't plan this emotional journey we're going on with a divorce.
Gotcha.
Right, which has financial consequences. Okay.
Well, listen, thank you guys for the information. That's all we have for this moment. We will be back with other topics in the future, but thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.